Hello guys, Arimon TCG over here, and I'm going to be going over how I made over $9,000 in profit in just 9 months with Pokemon. Now, not all of this is, actually none of this is a direct cash profit. I haven't sold everything out and made all this 9,000 and just kept it. This is obviously on paper profit, but yeah, like this is what my collector app shows me when I see what I have. I also have a Google spreadsheet that maybe we can go over in another video to kind of prove that I have what I have. I could even show off my collection in another video. I think that'd be pretty cool. But for today, I kind of want to lead you guys down the same path that I've been taking for the past 8 months. And if you can count correctly, you can see 8 months is around when Surging Sparks came out. And yeah, that's right. I came in with the Pocket hype. And even then, even when everyone was saying, hey man, if you came in at Surging Sparks and you paid these, really high prices, there's no way you could have made money. You're probably really, bought in at a terrible time. I actually was able to make smart decisions. I was able to maneuver the market well, and I was able to come out ahead. Why is this? Well, it's because of a few different things that I learned from watching other investors and also just trying to understand the general Pokemon market. Now, I've been in the hobby for years, right? I've been collecting ever since I was a kid. I think most people who are interested in this stuff probably have too, right? It makes sense. Most people aren't getting into Pokemon in their 20s, right? But as someone who's relatively new to Pokemon investing, I kind of want to share my secrets and share what I've gathered from other people and put it all in one place. Now, this isn't only going to be about sealed investing, although I will say most of my investments are in sealed. We'll be going over multiple different ways to make money, 3 main ways. And yeah, let's just get into it. So first, the very first thing that we need to understand is how do you actually make money? Well, it's pretty simple. Buy low, sell high. Pretty simple term. Everyone knows it. If you're in investing circles or you just follow investing in general, you've definitely heard this before. Very, very simple, right? Now, I will say, technically, you can buy low by buying at MSRP right now and then resell a lot of it onto Facebook Marketplace or something like that. I do not support scalping. I do not support you going into a Target, buying out all of the Destined Rivals ETBs and then selling them at a higher price. Yes, technically this is buy low, sell high, but guys, if you scalp all this product, if you scalp all this product, how are the kids gonna have fun with the product today? Like, at some point, you guys need to look inwards if you scalp and understand that this is a children's game. Scalping this product is kind of just a dick move in general, and I don't support it. When I say buy low, sell high, I'm not necessarily talking about scalping. Now, if you buy a single booster box and then sell it, sure, that's okay. I don't think that's a huge deal. If you're buying the entire Target shelf of ETBs and then reselling them, you're a scumbag, and I would kindly ask you, get off my channel. I don't really support scalpers here. But that being said, buy low, sell high. Very simple, right? Not as simple as it seems, so we will go over that later, but this is the core principle of making money, right? And especially in the Pokemon market, this is how you want to be operating. Now, I would say there are 3 main ways that you can go about this, right? Number 1 are singles. You can see this beautiful Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions. That is a single. You can buy low on a single, sell high on a single. That will let you profit. The second is grading cards. This means you take a card, you send it to a grading company like PSA. They will tell you what condition it is. They will give you a little score associated with that card. So, for example, this Magikarp is a PSA 10. And that Magikarp now has a higher market value because it has been graded. It has been authorized and verified that it is actually a gem mint Magikarp. It means it's very, very in very, very good condition. And so typically PSA 10 prices are going to be higher than raw prices. So you buy the card for raw price, you grade it, you make money. Buy low, sell high. Last is sealed investments. These are booster boxes, ETBs, bundles, collection boxes, whatever else. Typically, what you want to do with these is buy low, again, buy when these are MSRP or below MSRP, wait a few months, years, and you will eventually see this rise. Now, each has its own benefits, each has its own risks. I'm not going to tell you which one to do, but I'm going to walk you through how I would do each one of these and how to navigate all three avenues of making money in this hobby. I would say these are the three main ways. Obviously, there are technically more that you could do. You can rip and ship and whatever, but I don't really support rip and shipping too much. And at the same time, I think these are the most easiest to get into as a newcomer if you're looking to put money into this hobby. Singles, graded, and sealed. So let's start with singles, right? This is extremely risky because it is a highly, highly speculative market. Most of the time, singles tend to start out at a very high value and then go down over time. Why is this? Well, because when a set first release, there's a lot of hype for it. A lot of people are really excited to get this new big single. But over time, as more of product is opened, more singles will come out onto the market. And obviously, when there is more supply, the price of it is going to be driven down, right? Price is driven by scarcity. So the less of something that there is, the higher the price will be. Pretty obvious. And so you have to not only bet that the card, even though more of it is being made and more of it is being put out onto the market, you have to bet that the demand is going to rise at a faster rate than supply is coming out, right? So this is what makes it inherently risky. But you could have huge upside and return on investment if you buy a ton of singles. And we'll kind of go over a few examples here. But you have to also remember that this market is very susceptible to market manipulation. Certain cards can be bought out by a group of people, and if they buy out all of the inventory of a certain card on TCG Player, then sometimes the only remaining listings are going to be ones that are really highly priced, and then that's just going to make the market move really fast in a direction that is unnatural and doesn't actually reflect the real demand that exists for that card. Sometimes it's not always market manipulation, sometimes it is. And so all of this makes singles probably the single most risky aspect of Pokemon investing that you can go into, and it's one I would probably recommend the least. It's not consistent. You're not going to get great gains if you don't know what you're doing. But if you do want to do it, I would say you should buy cheap singles that you can buy a lot of. For example, this Charmander Obsidian Flames ETB promo came out somewhat hot, dropped to, I think this is around $5. Yeah, it looks like just around $5. So let's say you bought 20 of these, right? $100, but you have 20 Charmanders. February of 2025, people realized, hold on, this card is kind of sick, right? People really like this Charmander staring at the Pidgey. It fits really well with the trio of Stellar Crown. And I think Stellar Crown also released, somewhere around this time. I don't remember exactly when. But, Stellar Crown has the Bulbasaur and the Squirtle also playing with Pidgeys. And so it makes this kind of cute set, right? And so if you had bought a lot of these at this low price, you could have sold high at this peak, and you would have made a really, really good margin, right? You would have 6x your money. So that's a huge profit that is not easily gained in most times in such a short time frame, right? So that's pretty good. And you could have bought like in any of these periods and you probably would have had that good ROI. If you're not going to do that though, I would buy chase cards that you like so that even if they go down in value, they're big cards that you really want in your collection anyway, and so you're kind of happy to have them regardless, right? A great example of this might be the Latios team up or tag team card. God, I always switch it up because I know the Japanese is like tag team or whatever. Because you guys know what I mean, the Lovebirds in Latios, right? This is a very, very popular card, and it was super cheap when it first came out. But if you bought a few singles of those and you just kept them, right now I think they're worth around like 1,000 raw. I think like 1.5k raw or something. So again, you could have huge upsides in that sense, but again, very speculative. You have no idea what's going to happen because of all these factors that affect singles, right? And singles generally tend to go down over time because newer and better cards will come out for those Pokemon, unless it's a very, very iconic card, right? And that can be hard to spot sometimes. So again, very speculative. I don't necessarily recommend singles, but if you want to go that route, go for it. I would just use these tips if you're going to. Next is grading. Now, grading is inherently a skill, right? It's a skill-based thing. You need to understand what you're looking for when you send cards out to grade. Otherwise, you're going to get burned and you're going to be wasting a lot of money grading cards if you're getting back a bunch of 9s and 8s, especially if you're grading modern. If you're grading modern, anything less than a 10 is basically losing money. You're basically losing the money grading the card because it's almost the same as the raw price, typically. And unfortunately, it's also somewhat random. Unfortunately, it is somewhat random. I don't know if you guys have seen this Poke Investing subreddit post, but as you can see, this guy sent his Umbreon alt art to PSA. He got an 8. And then he sent it to BGS and got a pristine 10. If you don't know, this is a black label. This is the most highest quality grade that you can get for a card. It means it has perfect centering, corners, edges, surface, as you can see right here. And the fact that PSA gave it an 8 at first is kind of insane to me. Now, I will say I haven't seen this happen to me. I've never seen a card that came back as in like an 8, and I was like, wait, there's literally not a single scratch on this. Usually, if I get an 8 or 9, I'm like, okay, it was definitely a gamble, right? This is not usually going to happen, but it can happen. You have to account for that risk. That is a risk. It can be random, okay? So it is somewhat random, and I would say if you're starting out, start by grading your childhood collection. This might not be the most popular opinion. People will say only grade cards you know for sure are going to get 10s. Well, honestly, I started out with grading my own childhood collection, and I think for me, that gave me a good idea, a good baseline for what each grade really represents, right? If you see this Latios EX right here, I have this exact same Latios in my childhood collection. I had it in my binder for 10 years. I had it, since 2015. Had it for 10 years, graded and got a 10. And I'm like, okay, I look at the back. It looks perfect. It looks pristine. No dents. Centering is good. Corners are good, etc., etc. And so that can tell you kind of like, typically your childhood collection is not going to be the best maintained. I wouldn't be sending your like beat up cards that you think are going to get PSA 2s. Don't send those unless they're gold stars or something. But like, send a good variety of stuff. Generally stuff that you think is near mint. And see what happens, see what you get back, and that can provide a good kind of basis for your understanding. And if you don't have a big childhood collection, go to some shows. This is free. You can just go to shows and you can ask, hey, can I look at this card? And typically people have PSA 8s and 9s and a lot of 10s at shows. Not always, you're not going to see as many 8s and 9s, but you will definitely see them. You can definitely find them. And you can see like, oh, okay, so the centering was a little bit off on this one. Oh, the corners are, white on 2 to 3 corners, and so then maybe that's why it gave it a 9. But sometimes you'll see 10s and you'll see, oh, there's a white dot on the corner, but still got a 10. So they can tell, there is some leeway when it comes to, especially PSA grading. I don't know about Tag or Beckett or any of those. I don't endorse those because PSA is just the most liquid. And if I were going to recommend what you should do to first start out with this is to buy a bunch of cheap cards with a big PSA 10 upside. If you guys are interested in a video like that, let me know. I can give you some good cheap card recommendations that I would recommend setting it a PSA to get a big upside. For your first grading big send, I would recommend you just send cards that you already have, that you've ripped open yourself and you think are in good condition. Now, risk. There is a lot of risk with this. Prices can go down while you wait. I mean, it's not only the fact that, like, if you send just only pristine cards, all of them are going to get 10s, that's cool. But the prices of those 10s can go down while they're stuck at PSA. I sent a few cards, well, not a few, I sent like at least 30 back in early March. Still waiting on them. And since March, my potential profits that I could get has gone down by over $1,000. I've lost $1,000 in potential profits. In just the waiting, because markets change, prices change, they fluctuate, right? And so by the time you get your cards back, maybe the trend that you were hopping on to grade with is gone. So that is a risk that you have to be aware of. But generally, even though the prices might come down, generally raw prices are going to be lower than PSA 10 prices. So as long as you are hitting the PSA 10, you're usually fine. And as I said before, I would stick with PSA just because it's the most liquid. If something else gets more popular, I might recommend it, but unfortunately, PSA is the standard. PSA is what most people buy. I've seen a few tag slabs at shows. They don't really sell well, unfortunately. So if you're looking for liquid items, PSA is just the standard, just is. Oh, and another note, Japanese is much easier to grade. If you're looking for a cheat code, grade Japanese. You're gonna get less reward. You're gonna get less ROI typically, because there's a much higher pop of PSA 10 Japanese, but it's also a lot more easily guaranteed because Japanese print quality is just way better compared to what we have here in the States. Next, we have sealed. Now, sealed is probably the single most safest investment out of the three things that we're going to talk about today. It's also the most simple investment. You buy a booster box, you buy an ETB, you put it in your closet, and you wait, right? It also has the least amount of risk if you buy at MSRP. I cannot advocate for buying products over MSRP unless you really know what you're doing, and unless that set is out of print. Like, if you're going to buy some Sword and Shield era stuff, it's above MSRP, yeah, that's totally fine. If you're going to buy, 2 cases of Destined Rivals booster boxes at like 1,500 each, yeah, that's a lot of risk that you're taking on, and I wouldn't recommend that. But if you buy at MSRP, you're typically going to be totally fine over the long term. It's also much less work. You're not flipping things, you're not sending things out to grid, you don't have to do extensive research on what is the raw price versus what is the PSA 10 price. It's really just, hey, I buy a box, I keep it sealed, it goes up. Right? Very, very simple. Here's some tips for sealed investing. Booster boxes are king. If you can, you should always err on the side of booster boxes. If you think a set is really good, go for the booster box. If the only time you shouldn't buy into booster boxes is if you don't have the money, and maybe some other products are lagging behind. For example, Evolving Skies over here, I believe the booster boxes are under 2K, which is, I think, like 1.8 to 2K or something in that range, right? Insane price. Most people do not have that to just spend on a single booster box, but the ETB is only $300. So in that case, I might say, buy an ETB, maybe buy bundles. Bundles were introduced, I believe, in Lost Origin. I think bundles are a really, really great investment, especially for specialty sets, which don't have booster boxes if you didn't know. Specialty sets are sets like Crown Zenith, 151, Paldean Fates, Shrouded Fable, and Prismatic. These do not have booster boxes, unfortunately. Pokemon Center ETBs are a little weird. I'm going to make a whole different video on PC ETBs because I actually have one of every single Scarlet and Violet PC ETB that I'm collecting right now. So if you're interested in a video on that, subscribe, and we'll go over it later. But yeah, typically these are the best products to buy. If you want to buy a collection boxes, you got to go with ones with good promos. I wouldn't really recommend you just buy a bunch of collection boxes. Like for example, Blooming Waters. Yes, it's got a lot of packs in it, but guys, you have to store this stuff somewhere. And unfortunately, if you're going to buy a ton of Blooming Waters, it's going to take up a lot of space compared to a bundle display of 151 booster bundles. Like, yes, maybe the price is a little bit more for, a whole display, sealed display, but it takes up way less space for the amount of packs that you have inside. And space is another thing I feel like a lot of people don't really think about with sealed. It's an important thing. You have a finite amount of space usually, and you're gonna have to pay more to get more space. And so using what limited space you have and investing in booster boxes mainly will kind of help you keep that space cost low, if that makes sense. When I say space cost, I just mean like, you'll have a limited amount of space, right, to spend almost. And so I would really err on the side of bundles, ETBs, and booster boxes if possible. ETBs are kind of like, they also take up a lot of space, but unfortunately, they're unavoidable if you're going to go into specialty sets like 151 or Prismatic. But yeah, I would avoid collection boxes unless they have amazing promos. I'm trying to think recently. I think the only ones I could recommend picking up recently would be like the Jolteon, Vaporeon, and Flareon VMAX collection boxes. Those are pretty good. But yeah, generally I would avoid these. And I also generally avoid other ancillary products. I would avoid poster collections, the EV bag bundle or whatever, the binder collection. Like, yes, sometimes these things are underprinted and they can have somewhat of a premium, but at the same time, you have to understand that the weirder the item and the more obscure your item is, um, the less liquid it becomes. It's much easier to sell booster bundles, ETBs, booster boxes, than it is to sell these weird collection box and ancillary products. So I would, if you can, maybe even if it is a premium, I would definitely recommend you go into those instead. And yeah, that is it for sealed. So now let's talk about buy low, sell high, because I said that at the beginning. I was like, hey, this is kind of the most important thing, right? Buying low and selling high, that's how you make profits. Kind of obvious, but it's not as simple as you might think, right? Because when is low? Especially right now, we're in a very weird market. Everything right now is above $200. Every booster box is above $200. What do? None of it is low. And so this is important, right? Your entry point matters because at the same time, when is high? Your exit point also matters. If you think you're going to be moving to a new house or something, in a new apartment in like a few months, I don't think you should buy cases and cases of booster boxes to seal away because you're going to have to move all of that, right? It doesn't really make sense to buy into all of that right now. Your entry point and exit point matter a lot. How long do you see yourself holding some of this product? Do you see yourself holding, like booster boxes for a year, 2 years? Depending on that answer, I actually think certain products make more sense, right? There's a lot of factors that go into buying low and selling high. Now, this is a good principle to have in mind, but you have to think about it more than just buy low, sell high, right? And buy low can be relative. Like right now, everything is above MSRP. So you could say, oh, well, Scarlet Violet base is only 200 a box compared to all the other boxes this generation. It's pretty low, right? Yes and no, right? Because yes, it is low compared to the other sets in this era, but also you have to think, what is the potential high for SV base? When is your exit point going to come up? Is your money better spent somewhere else? Is there a better entry point for a different product that has a better exit point? All these things kind of matter. All these things you should be taking into consideration before you buy anything. I mean, this doesn't just apply to Seal. This applies to singles and graded and, whatever else. Time frame is just not the same for everybody. And this kind of is going to lead into a bigger point, which is you want to roll profits to decrease your cost basis, right? So the easiest way to do this, I would say, is probably to grade cards. A lot of the way that I actually got my sealed is by grading a ton of cards, getting a bunch of 10s, and selling those to then buy boxes, using those profits to buy more boxes, invest more into the hobby, and then reduce my cost basis, right? So what does that mean? Let's say I have I pulled like a Gengar VMAX, right, from Fusion Strike, and then I go to grade it. Now, that is like 1.5, 1.3K, something like in that range, right? So I believe the raw price is around 500. So you made around 500 to 600 in profit. We'll say that. We'll be somewhat conservative here. And so let's say with that single raw copy, you could have bought a single Lost Origin, booster box. But now that it's 2 times the price, you can now buy 2 Lost Origin booster boxes for the price of 1, right? Or let's not say you pulled the Gengar. Let's say you bought the Gengar, and you knew it was going to get a 10, right? And so in that sense, you're able to make your profit work for you and decrease your cost basis significantly, right? Because then your cost basis for those Lost Origin booster boxes are $250 a piece, which is amazing. That's an amazing cost basis to have for a set that is out of print and is currently at around $500, right? You got a half off basically. So this is the real secret, that you want your money to keep rolling. Well, think of it as a snowball, right? You don't really want your money to just kind of sit in one spot, and I would try and avoid that as much as possible. Now, this doesn't mean that you should be constantly selling and trading and buying your boxes over and over again, especially for sealed. For sealed, typically it's better to just hold on and wait. But especially if you're doing singles and graded, move those into other things, right? And most importantly, have fun. If you aren't going to card shows, if you aren't meeting new people, if you aren't having fun, you just aren't going to stick around, and you're not going to see the gains that you would want. And yeah, I mean, I did say that I got into it recently, but I've been going to card shows since I got in, since I got into it, you know? And so I've been meeting a lot of new people. I've been making connections. I can now get good deals for certain things. I was able to buy some Distant Rivals boxes for MSRP. Like, there's a lot of cool things that you can do being in this hobby, and you're not taking advantage of it by just sitting in your home and buying boxes and buying cards. Okay, guys, you got to get out there. You got to meet new people, and you got to engage with the hobby, because it is a community at the end of the day. You're not just, you shouldn't just be into this market because it makes money. You should be into this because you are passionate about it. Because that's when you really are going to see, I think, the most gains. And when you're invested as a fan, that's when I think you can make almost smarter decisions about which sets are good, which sets are bad, when to buy in, when not to buy in. You can see when people are FOMOing for stuff. You can avoid those hot trends. You can be like, okay, well, a lot of people are FOMOing for this. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna wait. You can see when I went to a card show recently, I saw millions of prismatic ETBs. And guys, that tells me that this price point is not going to hold for long. That tells me that these ETBs are abundant. That tells me that everybody has these ETBs, but they're just holding on to them because they think it's going to go up. So as soon as more reprints come, and more reprints are going to come, people are going to panic sell. People are going to sell. The price is probably going to go down. Okay? And so because of that, I know I'm not going to buy any more prismatic. So I'm telling you guys, you need to go to card shows. You need to engage with the hobby. You need to meet new people. This is probably the most important thing. And yeah, in general, that is how I made 9K in over 8 months. Now, it wasn't like I made 1K a month, right? There were some months that I didn't make any money, and there were some months that I made a lot of money. And obviously, this is all on paper profits, right? But like at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you have fun. And also that you have alternative investments. Pokemon should not be your primary investment strategy. It is risky like all markets, obviously, but like, guys, have some money in the S&P, have some money in Bitcoin, Nvidia, whatever. But like, you know what I mean, right? Diversify a bit. Pokemon should be a fun investment. And this channel should be a fun channel. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment what you want to see next, and I'll see you guys later.